Hello, in this lesson we are going to speak about word stress and to see some techniques how to teach word stress. Well, first of all, we need to define what stress is. Well, it can be said that stress is relative prominence of syllables, and as you know, stress is one of the vocal features. When speaking about word stress of English sentences or English words, they are characterized, stress is characterized by the use of strong and weak prominence as a stress. Well, there are no consistent rules in English. This is one of the difficult points of teaching English stress. And the main reason is because English is a mixture of Germanic and Romance languages, and that is why stress is unpredictable and not systematic. Well, and here I try to present you some slides to see why word stress is important, and it's important to teach it in class because improperly placed stress causes misunderstanding. Look at the examples: invalid and invalid. You see, if we place a stress in the first syllable in the first word, it has meaning of someone who is disabled, or a next word invalid, it has a different meaning, like null. Well, so stress placement may also have a grammatical function. It changing the stress to another syllable can change the part of speech. And observe the examples in this slide. Well, noun, they usually have stress on the first syllable and the same word, but if we pronounce them in the syllable under the stress, the last syllable under the stress, so they are verbs, and so meaning is also different. Like present, it's a gift, and present, it's a verb, it's action, what we can do. I can present something, or this is a project, we have an interesting project. Well, and we can project it. Well, so it's an action. You see, so it's very important for students to realize that improperly placed stress can cause misunderstanding. And another point that it's necessary to explain when teaching stress, that it's a phenomenon of vowel reduction. Well, in English, unstressed syllables and vowels tend to sound alike. Like in examples, action and not in action. Yeah, you see that. So we have this phenomenon of vowel reduction. Well, and this phenomenon affects only those syllables that are completely without stress. So this is very important for your students to realize that when syllable is not stressed, so vowel tend to be reduced. It's not like, for example, in Spanish languages, when all syllables have the same duration, regardless the placement of stress. But English is different, and your students have to be aware of it, and you as a teacher have to explain that syllables that are not under the stress, vowel cannot be pronounced equally with that one that is stressed. And at the beginning I said that placement of stress in English language is unpredictable and non-systematic. Well, but actually there are some rules, like patterns, that we can follow when teaching English stress. Well, so let us see stress on two-syllable words. Well, if the word doesn't have a suffix, and in the majority of two-syllable words, stress usually goes on the first syllable. Well, it's one of the rules that can be explained, and your students may follow this pattern like in examples here. So you see, no suffix, two-syllable words or noun in general, so stress goes on the first syllable, like in the words cherry. It's the first column, words that do not have suffix. Cherry, devil, father. So there is a pattern that should be followed. Or in two-syllable words, first syllable is under the stress, or in nouns in general, like jacket, table, etc. Well, next, stress in compound words. You know that compound words, it's a combination of two words that are treated as a single unit from the point of view their meaning. Well, so like bus stop, can opener. So these words that units that are composed by two words, well, they are compound. So let us see how stress should be placed in these words. Well, in most compound words, the stress is on the first part. Well, like an example that you have, bus stop. Yeah? we have two words. They are separate words. They represent a single unit, but stress should be placed on the first element. Well, and what about longer compounds? So in longer compounds, the first element has the main stress. Well, and the other part of the word has weaker stress, like in words crossword, baseball, strawberry, etc. Well, I would like to observe again the first example in bus stop. Here you see that words are this compound word, but it's represented by two separate words. And next examples like crossword, baseball, they represent a single word, but the rule is the same, that the first element of compound, whether it's two separate words or one single word, but stress goes on the first element. So it is like a rule, and your students have to be aware and remember it and use in order to sound natural and say correctly. Well, and next rule is about two-syllable words. Well, most two-syllable verbs have stress on the second syllable, even if they do not come from the original one-syllable words. So this is two-syllable word stress refers to verbs. Well, so let us see these examples. Report, prepare, outrun. So you see these are verbs, actions. Well, and so the rule can be established here that all verbs in two-syllable verbs, they have stress on the second syllable, on the second element of a word. Well, so you may practice it with your students, ask them to write or give examples of verbs, two-syllable verbs, and control correct placement of stress. Well, and you know, English language is full of exceptions. Well, and also we have exception here regarding stress. Well, so some exceptions regarding the change of the part of speech in examples that I prepared for you. Well, so you see, we have the same words, written form, picture and picture, and they represent, in the first column they represent verbs, and they represent in the second column represent nouns, but the stress goes on the first syllable. It's an exception. You know that all verbs, they have to be stressed on the second syllable, but here I repeat again, this is an exception. So we have verbs like picture, promise, when these words have stress on the first element. Well, let's continue about stress in verbs. And it's interesting when we have a prefix R and E that has meaning again, so it should receive the stronger stress. Like here in examples, redo, rename. Well, it's again, it's a kind of like exception to the general rule of placement stress in verbs, because you know that in verbs the stress should go on the second syllable, but here when we have prefix R and E with the meaning of again, remember that stress goes on the first element, redo, rename, but only when these words have meaning again. Well, when the prefix R and E begins a word and it doesn't mean again, so it is unstressed. So we have a normal rule. We have to follow the regular rule of stress placement in verbs, like remark. All verbs, they should be stressed in the last syllable, two-syllable verbs, like here, remark, remind. So rule continues as I already explained it at the beginning. Well, and noun and verbs that have the same written form, they have a name of homographs. Well, this word that have the same written form but they have different meaning, they are called homographs. And you have to remember, like a summary for you, that nouns, they have to be stressed on the first syllable, and verbs on the second syllable. Like conflict, it's like a controversy, or conflict, it's a clash, to clash. Content, it's a subject matter, for example, in content, to satisfy someone or something. Well, so, and now let us see stress in three-syllable words, in longer words, how stress should be used. We can build a longer word by adding parts to the beginning or end of shorter words. Well, And how stress is placed? Stress usually stays on the same syllable as in the original word. And please observe examples that I prepared for you. Like we have word underline. Original word is line with the I is under the stress. So in a longer word like underline, so stress remains in the same position. The same vowel is stress, I. Yeah, and next example like recollect. Original word is collect, so the same rule, the same pronunciation is preserved in the word recollect. Well, and when we have to use words with prefixes and suffixes, so we also can follow some rules, some patterns. You see that in English the suffixes IC and ICAL, yeah, or ic or ical, yeah, in the words like basic, medical are always what? Unstressed. You see that these suffixes, you have to remember that they are unstressed. Well, and next, when suffixes are added to English words, the stress remains on the same syllable, like real, really. Yeah, so you see that stress remains on the same syllable. Well, but again, English is full of exceptions, and here we also have an exception. So when the these suffixes are added to English words, the stress goes automatically to the syllables immediately preceding the suffix, like in the examples you have real, realization, well, nation, nationalization. You see how the placement works here. Well, some rules to remember. That reflexive pronouns are usually stressed on the second syllable, like in examples myself, yourself, etc. And compound verbs are usually stressed on the second or last syllable, but this is you already know. So here I decided to give you some ideas, teaching ideas and techniques. Well, you know that it depends on your creativity, how you can teach stress of English stress in English words in your class. They are just some ideas, some hints. Well, listen, first activity can be listen and pronounce the stress pattern differences. Well, the most efficient technique is students to listen first and be able to pronounce correctly following a certain pattern. Well, so how we can do this activity? You can present list of words for students to follow reading and be aware how these words are pronounced, or you simply can make your students listen and pronounce after the recording these words, or give them in words in isolation or in sentences, like here you have please record the record. Well, actually in this example students even can realize words, how they are used in a context, in concrete and real sentence. So this will help them realize the difference between words, the meaning it's different in these words. So it will be easier for them to practice and use the word stress correctly. Well, next activity, I also consider it's useful. Work with the dictionary to find examples with noun or verb homographs. Homographs, I repeat again, that's verbs that nouns or verbs that have the same written form but a different meaning, like project and project. Well, also, you may ask students to write their own sentences to contrast the meaning of the homographs, like in the preceding exercise, listen and pronounce the words like please record the record. So you may ask your students to work with the dictionary to find lists, to make lists of homographs and write their own sentences. You know that are very practical and very useful when students immediately start practicing using words correctly in the sentences, so that when they produce words or these words in sentences, so it will reinforce the correct use of stress. Or you may also organize role plays or dialogues using these homographs, so students will practice more in a live conversation, in dialogues or in role plays. Well, some more techniques. You may ask your students listen or circle or underline words with a stress on the first syllable, for example. You may present a list of words and without underlining. Here I just did it for you. I already underlined words that have syllable, first syllable under the stress. Well, but you may just simply present a list of words and ask your students to identify when they listen, meanwhile they are listening, so they identify and place or circle words with the first syllable under the stress. Well, next activity could be listen or circle or underline words with the stress on the second syllable. It's similar, but just with words that have stress on the second syllable. And again, write words in the corresponding column according to the stressed syllable. You may present a list of words and students just have to separate according to first or second syllable under the stress. More techniques. Read in sentences and fill the blanks with compound nouns formed from the two bold-faced words, like in the example I prepared for you, like crack that holds codes is a code track. So students have to figure out what is the compound word made of these two words like crack and codes. Well, and they have to write this compound word, and later you can expand a little bit more this activity and ask them to underline or circle or pronounce which element of this compound word has the main stress. Well, next activity, listen and mark the stressed syllable in these words, or simply present words and the students can be asked to mark the stressed syllable in these words. More ideas. Well, listen and repeat the pairs of words that have this sentence words and the sentences and with a suffix re, and students have to remember to stress only that words that have meaning with again, like for example remark, redo, replay when the meaning is again. Well, and words that do not have this meaning of again, they should not be emphasized, should not be taken into consideration in this particular exercise. Or also write or say own sentences as an example, as an exercise above. And more, classify words below according to the stressed syllable. It's a mixture of compound words, one syllable, two syllable words, or longer words. So students have to follow all patterns, all rules that have already been explained, and just separate words and place them in the corresponding column. Thank you very much. It's all what about word stress.